I want to pose a potentially challenging question to all of us. If we pulled the receipts of your life over the last 30 days, what you say you value, your attention, your calendar, your bank account, what would they say you value most? Not what you believe you value, but what would it say and prove that you value? You see, as many of us in leadership, as parents, as partners, there's this painful gap between what we believe in our heart we value and the things that are actually ordering and managing our lives. How many of you have ever faced burnout or overwhelm or where it felt like you had more on your plate than you could manage? Just by show of hands, how many of you? Right? My people. Right? This idea of work-life balance has become a myth in the business world, but many still are striving to figure out how to balance life. And a recent poll showed that over 50% of US workforce, business owners, employees, teams, parents, and professionals are all agreeing over 50% of them are facing burnout. See, burnout happens when the order of your life is off. When the order of your life is off, the flow breaks. And things that should be thriving feel stuck. Things that are less important maybe in the long term of your life somehow start taking up more space. So I'm here to challenge the idea today that life perhaps was not meant to be balanced, but perhaps life was meant to be ordered. And nature could be a great guide. You see, so in the Middle East, there's a Jordan called the Jordan River. Many of you may know about this. It flows from one of the top mountains down to the lowest place on earth. And everywhere that water flows, abundance lives. Animals gather, vegetation grows, ecosystems are literally birthed. As that water continues down, it runs into the Dead Sea. Now, the interesting thing about the Dead Sea is that it has such a high salt content that almost nothing in it or around it lives. Same water, different outcome. So why? You see, the Jordan River receives, and everything it receives, it freely flows and gives away. Yet abundance continues to flow. Whereas the Dead Sea only receives and holds. And over time, water being held gets stuck. You see, I believe lives are rooted this way. That there's areas of our lives that become stuck and more like the Dead Sea than the Jordan River. Things that we're holding on to. Things that we're not allowing to flow freely in our lives. And a point in my life, that was me. In fact, I burned my 20s. On paper, I was successful. I was an entrepreneur, locally celebrated, busy on the outside, but on the inside, feeling empty. And I love hearing the testimonies of so many others have reached this crucible moment where they started having to ask themselves deeper questions. In my most humble moment, I literally had to stop asking, how do I balance over 100 hours a week working, where I had a pillow underneath my desk, and I wore it like a sense of honor. Because the culture of business taught me that success mattered in my bank account, in my time, in the things I was contributing that other people would acknowledge me about. And the truth is, my identity became my work. And then, in my quiet time, I had this stunning revelation. I realized that there is a successful driver in all people that are not just successful at work, but in their personal life. Our life was not meant to be balanced. It was meant to be in order. And so how many times in life do you feel like, imagine a row of buckets, and each one of these buckets have different meanings, your family, your spouse, your work, your community and network, and then this whole big thing called legacy that everyone wants to leave behind. And each time you're taking each separate bucket and you're trying to bring it to the well and fill it up. And then you bring it back and grab another one and then fill it up and bring it back down. And then I'm struggling to find time for my wife, my kids, my faith. And see, there's an interesting thing, is that as I'm taking each one of these buckets to the well, guess what's happening to the other buckets? They're draining because there's holes in the bottom of the buckets. So the whole time frustrated, trying to fill the holes, fill the buckets. And then one day, God, in my quiet time, gave me a stunning revelation. He said, son, the buckets with holes on them are part of a creative design. And you were trying to go by a different design. And he showed me that maybe our lives were not meant to be in a row of buckets. Perhaps there was a better design that we can look at nature. And so he started slowly ordering them, ordering my life back into order. Starts with the smallest bucket up top. And that's my time centered with God in the morning, deciding who I'm going to be before the world tells me, before my inbox tells me, before my accomplishments tell me. It's my time to literally get together with the person and the creator of everything. And then underneath that was my spouse, who I literally share a home with. It's where we handle our financials, our future goals. It's where we plan what matters most in our life, principally. And the beautiful thing is, everything above it, when it's in the right order, overflows in everything else in my life. But when it's out of order, nothing below will get the benefit. Third bucket was our family. I remember hearing by J. Oswald Sanders that if chaos lives in your home, you have no right to lead. And that hit me hard, because publicly I was a leader, but quietly I was failing my family at home. And so God starts reordering my buckets, putting God, my spouse, and my family right underneath that. And then health and wellness became my fourth bucket that gave me the vitality to be present and show up. And then work became my fifth bucket. Notice, work was not my first bucket. It used to be. But standing on all my accomplishments, as many of you know, does not fulfill the call of every human. So being my fifth bucket instead of my first, everything else flowing ahead of it ended up overflowing into my work, into my purpose. And then the sixth bucket was my friends, my community. And the seventh bucket, legacy. Legacy not because what we leave behind, but legacy is what we put into motion when we're living centered on who God called you to be and the unique gifts he gave you, married inside of your home where you have established order, inside of your kids, inside of your health, inside of your community. And when all that comes together, it becomes a roaring river that brings abundance everywhere. So leaders, you shape not just results, but culture. You shape the emotional and spiritual environment of every room you enter. And parents, you the same way. The order of your life dictates the atmosphere you bring in your home. So I want to challenge you today. What is out of order in your life? And one thing you choose to order back. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with a spouse or a loved one that there's been a break. Maybe it's a dinner at the table uninterrupted with your family. Perhaps it's just 10 to 15 minutes at home in the morning in quiet time before you pick up your phone. Because your attention, your energy, your calendar, and your bank account will always tell you what matters most in your life. So choose the things that are most important and order them. Put it together so that you can be like the Jordan River, that everything that flows in you and through you will not just change your life radically, but it will bring life to everyone around you. Thank you.